chaos.
I think the worst part is the Raiders essentially built their whole entire offense off of Antonio Brown.
Yep.
You know, Renfro's a junk guy. Tyrell Williams is a deep threat.
Renfro was a fourth receiver who's going to get a lot of dump offs.
Josh Jacobs never been a workhorse. So everything was kind of predicated off getting Antonio Brown his 10 to 15 throws and then letting everyone else kind of work around that.
It's going to be so much better when I'm not a Raiders fan next year.
And with all that happening, it's like everyone else has elevated one more spot, and that just takes away kind of their strengths.
And, I mean...
He opens up so much of the field.
But the one thing I say it will help is now you can't key on one receiver.
I mean, yeah, that
Darren
helps.
Waller could still have a breakout year.
That helps if your quarterback doesn't have happy feet and can get through more than 2 reads, which is debatable.
But it's going to go back to that quick dink-dunk offense where he completes 70% of his passes but doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns or yardage. It's the Kirk Cousins.
But again, we don't have that same kind of physical running back for that type of year to go down. So that's why it's like they almost have to appease AB. But really, and I wrote this for FBC Raiders, it's like this whole scenario is just showing cracks in the Gruden and Mayock relationship so early. It's like here you are trying to build this culture, and it's like clearly you guys, one of you is enabling him, one of you is being a hard ass, and good cop, bad cop doesn't work with Mr. Big Chest, who clearly doesn't react well to games and politics because he's over here calling out teammates for fades and
calling people
like
white devils.
So, yeah, man,
allegedly.
There's just a lot of shit
By the way,
on.
Khalil Mack was never a problem like this.
Neither was Amari Cooper.
But you know who got paid? Aaron Donald and Jared Goff. Oh, I thought you couldn't pay a star D lineman and a star quarterback and a star running back and a star receiver. Oh, my bad. My bad.
Hit the gunshots. Hit the gunshots on that one.
My bad. I didn't know.
That was a good bar right there.
I totally didn't know you could pay like 5 dudes on your team. But apparently the defense was bad, so that means we can't pay him. This is why Mykell Jordan was never the highest paid player on his team his whole career, and he's bogarting all this money and is on some F these kids type memes now that he's a billionaire and owning a trash-ass NBA team. This is what happens when you don't pay people what they're worth, and then they go somewhere where they do get paid what they're worth. You look stupid, and then you just go from one end of the scale to the other. Congratulations, Oakland Raiders. You went from a quiet superstar who probably might have taken a small discount or a succession of some sort. Probably would have been a great Hard Knocks soundbite. But instead, no. You get Andre Bad Moon Rising 3.0. Congrats.
I think the worst part of this entire situation is the fact that we're talking about Antonio Brown.
And their corners suck.
His helmet, his feet, all this shit, but we're not talking about the last season of Oakland and what that team has meant to the community and what that community has meant to the team, and their colors, their culture, their history, the logo, the name. Like, all of that is tied exactly to the East Bay. The fact that we're not even talking about that in the 60th season and their last season in Oakland is really kind of
in the 100th season of the NFL. This is the last season of the Raiders in Oakland.
The Mecca of Raiders. The Mecca of the Silver and Black.
And what do they have? Another supposed superstar receiver who they give a big contract to, and it's looking like it ain't going to work out. Trevon Walker.
Nah, worse than that. Giving me Jerry Porter and Randy Moss vibes.
And you can sprinkle in a little bit of Darius Hayward-Bay.
I don't know about that. DHB was never a problem.
He was never a problem, but he was the best receiver in a really bad receiving group. And if you look at this team without Antonio Brown, tell me that Darius Hayward-Bay, who almost had 1,000 yards, wouldn't be the best receiver on this team. Tell me he wouldn't. Because that Darius Hayward-Bay...
I mean, not this 32-year-old special teamer who's caught like 5 balls in 5 years.
No, but I'm saying that Darius Hayward-Bay, in his 3rd year in the league, I think his last year with Oakland, having almost 1,000 yards receiving,
something like that. Yeah,
almost 19 yards a catch or whatever.
He would be better than
he would be better than Tyrell Williams.
They would be in the same breath. It would be right there.
17 steps back to take 15 more steps laterally to move up 2 feet.
But yeah, man.
So you still just in a bad situation, and you wasted and squandered all your first round picks by overdrafting guys in the first round and having a weak middle of your draft, and all these veteran free agents out there you could just throw money at on a couple 1-year deals. Then you can't justify why they couldn't go get Eric Berry or why they couldn't have thrown some money at Sean McCoy. Okay. You'll see. I ain't gonna say nothing, but you'll see.
All right, man. So on that note, I mean, guess we can stall for our favorite Chiefs fans by going ahead and playing my first pre-recorded interview.
Oh my goodness!
If you go over to the track side. So I interviewed Cody Roark from Locked On Broncos podcast. Asked him basically about the Broncos season, and so yeah, here it is. KB, you can give your reaction afterwards.
Fantastic.
So for those of our listeners who aren't familiar with Locked On Broncos, why don't you go ahead and just kind of tell them what it is and kind of how you got involved with it?
Yeah, so Locked On Broncos, we're a daily podcast. We provide daily news, coverage, insight on all things Broncos related, Monday through Friday. Anytime there's games, news, anything on the weekend, you can expect to hear 100% inside source information on the Locked On Broncos podcast every single day. You can get on your favorite podcast provider, whether it's the Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, TuneIn, any podcast platform you can think of, as well as you can follow me on Twitter at Cody Roark NFL.
Hey, there we go. I like those plugs. But yeah, man. So let me just ask you this first of all. What are you most proud or excited about to see from this Broncos team that you know, or better yet, what are you most proud that this Broncos team is going to show that you probably have seen or know that the rest of us NFL fans aren't aware of?
You know, I'd say the one thing is being in practice and seeing just how everything is run. I think the coaching staff, granted the Broncos have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL, the second hardest schedule according to the NFL in terms of strength of schedule. The Raiders have them first in terms of the toughest schedule. I just think really coaching is going to be a big difference. The last 2 seasons we've seen for the Broncos, coaching has been one of those areas that's really kind of held them back from achieving their full potential. With all the talent that they've had on defense the last 2 seasons, it just doesn't add up to going 11-21 in 2 years. A lot of those decisions, you see the coaching staff, they're very good teachers. Vic Fangio's come in and he instilled the culture of accountability and avoiding those mistakes. It's all about discipline, responsibility. One of the things, too, he goes by the motto, we want to avoid death by inches, which means that, if you're late to a meeting, that's one of those little things that, you do in your preparation that can affect you on game day, and you don't make a correlation with that. But, it's like doing the right thing no matter what, no matter who's watching, all in, all the time, and it's all about a brotherhood. It's about team unity. There's no me. It's all about we. And that's the biggest message that this Broncos coaching staff has installed upon them. And every position coach, too, they're very good teachers. So I think you're going to see a much more disciplined Broncos team this year that we haven't had in quite some time. So for me, I feel like the NFL world will be surprised a little bit about seeing that.
Yeah, I've actually heard a lot of that buzz about the coaching staff. So I guess for you, how would you measure that success? What are you looking for?
I would have to look at it, everyone in the NFL business, a lot of people look at it from a win-loss standpoint. Granted, I think the Broncos, I was talking with some people in the Broncos front office, and one of the things, too, is they know that bringing in a new first-year head coach, and they're undergoing a culture change. They understand that this may not just turn around right away, going 11-21 in 2 years, to all of a sudden going, 12-4 the corresponding year. One of the biggest things is patience. They want to see how this team grows, and for the Broncos, in order to kind of measure that, you look at some of the games that they were in last year. They lost about 4 or 5 different games where they were within 7 points or less. And if you factor in a couple of mistakes that were made in those games, that's the difference between going 6-10 and then going 10-6. So I think with the real attention to detail on the process, doing your job, whatever position that you're playing, and, rallying, obviously having a ball control defense and utilizing the run game and taking care of it, not turning the ball over with Joe Flacco, You're going to see that from this Broncos team. Now, granted, you want to see them compete. The AFC West is very tough, as I'm sure you know by doing this division preview, that, the Chargers are always a tough team every single year because they have Phillip Rivers. They have some talent. They're getting Hunter Henry back this year. That defense is pretty talented with the pass rushers that they have, the secondary they have. The Raiders right now, they seem to be on the rise with the addition of Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams on the offensive side of the ball, Vontaze Burfict, Brandon Marshall, some other guys. They have some pretty talented young defensive players, too. Jonathan Abram, a strong hitting safety from Mississippi. He's out there as well. They look to be a much more disciplined team as well. And then you granted the Kansas City Chiefs, where you Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and, you add a piece of defense with Tyrann Mathieu. It is a tough division. So for me, if I have to measure how we can see progress with this Broncos team, it would be by avoiding some of those big mistakes that cost you games consistently. If they can short down on that a little bit, I'm going to be okay with that. That's something I think that this Broncos team can live with. They understand that they've got to compete. Nothing's going to be handed to them, but they also understand, too, at the same time, they got to take care of business one game at a time despite a tough schedule. If they focus on themselves, they're going to have a good chance this year.
Great. And so one of the other things, you talked a little bit about the formula, and one of the formula for Fangio has been defense. There's been a lot of hype about Von Miller, talking about him kind of even taking another step under this new regime. And I'm wondering if you buy that and if you're holding Von to those same expectations.
I think the expectations for Von Miller, they've always been the same, regardless of who's been his coach. Vic Fangio says that we can get even more out of Von Miller. Von Miller embraces that. But I really think we're going to see another guy shine and take a strong step this season. Bradley Chubb, really expected to have a strong role in this Broncos defense. Now, Von Miller, he's averaged 10 sacks in every season that he's been in the NFL, minus the 1 year he tore his ACL, and, he finished the year with 5 sacks. If he would have played those last remaining games, he could have reached 10 sacks. So he's been a dominant player for quite some time, and the expectation, he's still going to get his, but Bradley Chubb has created some different opportunities to open things up for Von Miller even more, because Bradley Chubb is more of that anchor power rusher that is coming off the edge, and he's attacking the bodies of the tackle, pushing them back into the quarterback, finding ways to maneuver around. He's added a lot of pass rush moves to his arsenal. These are the two guys. It's a two-headed monster, and for a guy like Vic Fangio, we saw what he did with Eddie Jackson. We saw what he did with Adrian Amos down there in the secondary. We saw what he's done with Akeem Hicks and obviously Khalil Mack on the defensive line for the Bears. They have all these pieces defensively where, you're going to have good cover guys and you're going to have good pass rushers. That equates to a lot of takeaways, and hopefully the Broncos can replicate that. But, yeah, I'd say the expectation for Von Miller, still going to be the same thing, but he's playing up about maybe 10 to 15 pounds heavier than he had prior. So, look for him to have one of those big years as well.
And so I know, you're talking a lot about the good right now and, what could happen, but I'm just curious for you in your mind, what is the worst case scenario? What is the red flag that you're kind of monitoring that, might make the team go the other way?
I said right now it's the offensive line. I'm looking at the center position and right guard, and what I mean by that is you have Connor McGovern, who played right guard last year for the Broncos. When Matt Paradis went down with a broken leg, he came in there, and he had to learn center a little bit. He transitioned down there, got reps, and he had some struggles, and one of the biggest issues with Connor McGovern has been consistency in getting his snaps to the quarterback out of the shotgun. Some of his snaps have been either too far to the left, too far to the right, a little bit too high, or sometimes low snaps. And you got to avoid it. You got to find consistency. So he's still trying to figure that out. And right guard, Ron Leary, he returned back to practice on Tuesday, which is a good sign for him. But he's been dealing with some knee soreness throughout camp. He tore his Achilles last year during the season. He came through. He's ready to go for the off-season program, and he's had a couple of setbacks along the way. So right now the concern is with Ron Leary's status up in the air. Can he stay healthy? If he can't stay healthy, I really worry about that offensive line at those two spots. I'm not necessarily worried about Garrett Bowles or even the rookie Dalton Reisner out of K-State, their second-round pick, and Juwan James, an off-season addition at right tackle. Those are the three spots I'm the most confident in right now. But really, center and right guard to me really concern me. And if Ron Leary gets hurt and can't miss, if he misses a long period of time, I do worry about the Broncos' continuity and being able to set up the run.
Awesome stuff, man. I honestly got to say, I'm a Raiders fan, but, I've listened to your podcast. So just the fact that I can listen to 2 or 3 episodes is really a credit to how deep your analysis is and your information. So shout out to you, man.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that, man. And, my guy, his name is your boy Q, Quentin Myers, and he hosts the Locked On Raiders podcast. He's a good dude as well, so you might want to reach out to him. He's really awesome dude. Has a lot of knowledge and insight on that. But yeah, man, I think it's important to just bring coverage, regardless if I'm in the Denver market, just being able to analyze every team